Good morning, USA. My name is Mary Jane Paul, and you are watching Prime Time. I am here with William Jones. Hi, William. How are you today?
I'm very well, Mary Jane. How are you?
I'm very well. Can you tell us where you fought in the war?
I just finished my year-and-a-half tour in Saigon, South Vietnam.
How was that experience for you?
It was one of the worst experiences of my life, where many of my friends and close relatives died over there.
So were you drafted or were you already in the military?
I was drafted into the military, but I chose to enlist rather than be just the cannon fodder soldiers that are drafted.
When is your birthday?
I was the first draft date on December 14th.
Oh, wow. So when's your birthday?
I was born on December 1st, 1950, so I was the first draft date.
And you were 18?
Yes.
So that must have been hard on you and probably your family and friends.
Yes, I was not given the opportunity to go to college because my family could not afford it, so there was no way that I could have gotten out of the draft, so rather than just being a draftee, I chose to enlist.
Did you have any close friends or relatives who were drafted?
Yes, my actually closest childhood friend was drafted and chose just to go into the draft to get out of it sooner.
Do you have any friends that were drafted but got out of it because of their social status or because they went to college or anything per se?
I came from a relatively low-income neighborhood, so most of my friends were not really able to go to college, but I had a few close relatives who actually went off to college instead of being drafted.
Okay, so let's talk more about Vietnam. So you said that your experience was not favorable. If you could do that again, would you go back to Vietnam?
Absolutely not.
Why?
I think that the war that we have fought now has been completely pointless, with many futile deaths without any sliver of victory.
Do you think that over there in Vietnam you guys were not necessarily treated fairly? Like there was a lot of maybe like health issues that maybe perhaps could have been prevented but weren't?
In Vietnam, we were relatively well supplied. It was the treatment after we returned that was really shocking to many of me and other fellow soldiers.
Okay, so let's talk about that. How was the the transition from Vietnam to coming back to America?
I came back to a country that I barely recognized. There were so many people protesting against the war, defacing national monuments in the name of peace rather than actually doing peaceful protests.
Okay. Do you think that you guys received any thanks when you guys returned back to America?
No, I think that we were treated like criminals when we came back for being forced to go fight a war that none of us truly wanted to fight, and we came back and there were protests against us. We were called murderers, we were called pillagers. There was really just an absolute outright distaste for soldiers in America at the time.
And earlier I can't speak, I'm sorry. Earlier in the interview you had said that you would have not have gone to Vietnam, if you could have done it again.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you think that, for instance, if there was an instance where you were not drafted and you stayed here, would you have been a part of the protests and whatnot?
Knowing what I know now and having experienced this, there are so many things about the protests that I would want to change, but there are also a lot of aspects that I admired from it. The overall message to end the war was good, but the treatment of the soldiers once they came back, because most of these soldiers were fighting against their wills. They were drafted, they were put into Vietnam rather than stayed at home. So if the treatment of the soldiers was better, I think I would have been right on board with the anti-war movement.
Were you, throwing back to Vietnam, were you a part of any incidents where, for instance, My Lai, were there any massacres or any situations where you felt like you were fighting but not necessarily for a good cause?
I wouldn't go as far as describing a My Lai incident, but there were many instances where, as we were in the heat of battle against many people that I don't care about and many people that I was fighting with who don't care why we're fighting, I was really had to stop and think, what am I fighting for here?
Okay, William, thank you for your time. That is all we have for today. Thank you for tuning in. Good night. Good morning. I don't know, whatever.
Thank you for tuning into Prime Time. Good night.
Thank you for... Just...
Now, they told us that Vietnam was going to be very different from the United States of America.